I'm here to talk to you about, I can't do that thing either. I can't really stay in one place. I'm going to move around. About changing behaviours. So I've been at Thames Water about a year, and in my job interview, I was kind of given the challenge and said kind of, if you get this role and if you're a good fit for this role, it's about trying things. Because Thames Water, we're very much behind. You know, we're behind most brands. We have a social offering that is kind of response driven, so it's quite reactive, but we're trying to do so much more. So Thames Water is obviously, we have about 15 million customers, many of which only contact us once a year, and that's normally to pay their bill. And if they contact us more than that, it's usually because they've had a problem. They've either had a burst pipe, so they've had no water, or their drains have been blocked, and that's it really. And we've kind of been challenged by regulators, as has the whole of the water industry. So we're actually going to be marked a little bit differently on our performance. So in terms of engagement, 50% of our the way we're going to be measured is going to be on people that have had contact with us. So generally, there'll be the people that might be slightly negative because they've obviously had an issue. Hopefully, we'll turn that issue into a positive and turn negative sentiment into positive. But generally, you know, we would think at least half would be negative. The other 50%, and now that's the challenge, they're going to be people that are customers of ours but have never had any contact with us. So where our kind of challenge comes in is those 50% of people, we need to influence them. We need to get them to change their behaviour. We need them to kind of feel that, yeah, I know Thames Water. I'm not just a customer. I don't just pay my bill. I've actually seen their billboards. I've seen their campaigns, and I believe in what they're doing, and I trust them. So that's the challenge. I mean, that's a fairly big challenge. That was actually my kind of response back. I'm going to skip that slide because I think I've covered it. So that is one of our biggest challenges. We have three main objectives on our kind of social media. We want to be there for our customers. We want to tell our story because we believe we have a beautiful story. You know, I mean, you look outside here, everyone's a customer of ours. It's an incredible story. We are lucky enough to have, in my opinion, the best city in the world. And we know that, and we respect that, which means we need to sort of be there for our customers and tell our story. And then the third thing is to change behaviours. So a few examples on kind of stuff we've been doing. When I first started, and again, I was asked in my job interview, so what do you think about our kind of social media? What's it like? And it's one of those weird things in a job interview, because you don't want to be too sort of arrogant, and you don't want to be rude, but you don't want to lie and say it's great when it's not great. So for me, it was a little bit of a test. That is this person trying to, you know, kind of test me in being honest, or do they want kind of me to say what they want to hear? So the first thing I did was just remind myself of who that person was and what their job role was, because if they were anything to do with social media directly, I might have changed my answer. But it wasn't. It was our head of brand, digital and marketing, who obviously would oversee it, but wouldn't directly control it. And I also asked him how long he's been there. So I didn't actually answer the question straight away. I asked how long he's been there, and he said he's only been there about 3 months. So that kind of reassured me that he's had no influence over the past kind of year or two. So I said it's average, but maybe the water industry as a whole is average. I don't know, but it's something that will put me off, completely put me off. And it kind of did. I mean, I'll be honest, when I first went to that job interview, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take that job, because I looked at it, it was bland, it was dull, it was like, this is the word you use, shit. But the opportunity was massive there. You know, I've worked in the railway, I've worked in aviation, and it's a little bit more established there, but here it wasn't established. And that's kind of what really inspired me. So, for example, you talked about drains. I'm going to talk about physical drains. That's one of our kind of big messages right now. So we have a regional-wide campaign. You might have even seen these on tubes, billboards, on our social channels, and things like that. But we get this done by a creative agency, which are great. They look great on billboards. They were at Waterloo Station and stuff like that. But then those kind of conversations, we want them to continue. So I think what was happening was people would see them, and then that is it. That's the end of the journey. Whether they remember it or not, we don't really know. We want that conversation to continue. So this year, for the kind of first time, we approached some influencers. So this whole thing is about kind of bin it, wet wipes and cooking oils and stuff like that, because they, if they're kind of flushed or down the sink, they clog up, they cause something called a fatberg, and it's not great. It's not great. And those poor sods have to actually go down there and clean it up. So for me, that was a real story. There's actually human beings going down there, but we're not showing that. We're giving them they're not individuals. It's Thames Water are going down there, but actually that's Amelia in the middle. She's actually going down there and doing that job because of you have ultimately flushed something that you shouldn't be flushing down the toilet. So we don't want to be finger pointing, but we want to give advice and we want to change behaviour. So Akhil Vyas is a celebrity restaurateur and chef. We paid him, and we paid him to kind of go on radio. We got some, we pitched to radio stations and got him to go and have conversations there. So this was a very different approach. We've done radio adverts before and things like that, but this was a totally different approach. This was Akhil on many kind of radio stations, actually talking to the presenter and having that conversation. And that conversation was obviously briefed by us, but we wanted to make sure he strongly believes in it, and he did. And the coverage we got from that was a lot better than radio adverts. We were actually having people on our social channels approach us and say, oh, I heard so-and-so on the radio, because we had a few others as well, and saying that's really interesting. Suddenly, we saw a shift. People were actually engaging with us. That 50% that I said that don't engage with us, who are going to be asked about us, suddenly they were engaging with us. So that was a big tick. Something else we've done, we've kind of tried to take our story to the streets. So we can talk to people, we can engage with people, we can film them, we can then film the actual stunt and we can put it on social media, we can reach loads and loads of people. And we're trying to highlight the problem, because we don't feel we were doing that. It's all good someone telling you don't bin your wet wipes, but actually, how can we show people, how can we bring that to life? And this is a kind of video, which I hope it works, and if it doesn't work, Stuart's the man to blame.
We're here in Reading Town Centre, challenging members of the public to the wet wipe challenge. We're going to see the difference between how a wet wipe and a bit of toilet paper fares. We're going to simulate the flush from the toilet and see how it goes down. I'll give you a bottle of water, and I'll take one myself. If you want to do a couple of sheets of toilet roll and stick that in your bottle. If we pop the wet wipe in, and make sure you got the lid on so it doesn't go all over us. We'll shake it together and simulate that action of flushing the toilet, and we'll see what happens. Describe what's happened to those sheets of toilet roll.
It's dissolved.
Completely dissolved, right? Do you want to describe what's happened to the wet wipe?
It's still totally intact.
Hasn't dissolved at all.
Bin your wet wipes and help us fight the fatberg.
So considering something like that actually only cost us about 2 or 3 grand. So we had to get a bit of permission from Reading High Street, which is where we're based. We had to get a film crew in. The rest of it was all done by us. The person hosting it is one of our colleagues. A billboard cost that much, if not more. So suddenly, even though on the day we probably only talked to about 30 to 50 people, which obviously isn't massive when you've got 50 million customers, but the footage this gave us, we can just keep reusing, we repackage it, it's across our social channels, and every time we have a kind of, wet wipe related kind of situation, we'll always use the video. I mean, there was a Stephen Fry the other week on the QI podcast mentioned it, and he was just saying that how he's disgusted that people, kind of are flushing their wet wipes down the toilet. And for us, that's a great opportunity. We're straight in there, like, we agree, Stephen, we're here. And then we kind of throw the video at people a little bit. But we've done it in a way that I think people do see the positives of it. So the next one is something we did literally a couple of weeks ago, just down the South Bank. And it was, we were really, so we've done the wet wipe thing, we've explained a little bit about why you shouldn't bin them, because it doesn't dissolve and all that sort of stuff. But we wanted to show the next step, and this is all about telling our story, that actually, when you do flush things, what actually happens. So we had a 3D canvas kind of made, and again, didn't cost us massive amounts of money. We had an artist who actually did it for us, and an agency that just developed it, but it was literally a canvas, it wasn't the biggest. and we booked some space at the South Bank, and we had it there. And again, we talked to 100 people, maybe 150 people. It was freezing cold as well. But again, we talked to people who will talk to more people who will talk to more people. And again, we had footage to use. So I'm just going to show you this video as well.
Thames Water clear thousands of these fatbergs every year at a cost of about £18 million. So what we're asking the general public to do is just have a little bit of a think about what you're putting down the toilet and what you're putting down the sink.
I think, in all honesty, we all do it. I know myself that I kind of flush things like makeup wipes down the toilet every now and again. It's just for convenience, but it's laziness, and yeah.
I think everyone's guilty of bad habits. I think on a Sunday morning when I've actually done my full English breakfast, enjoyed the breakfast and actually unintentionally poured the fat from the frying pan down into the sink. Don't intend to do it, but you know, we've all got bad habits.
I was never aware that you couldn't put all this stuff down there. You know, a bit of an eye-opener really.
It doesn't sound like a good thing. It sounds gross. Sounds like something you don't want in your sewers.
We put all our fat into the garden or whatever needs to be done for that to get rid of it. Make sure we don't flush anything which shouldn't be flushed down the toilet. Put them into the.
We're quite environmentally friendly,
yes,
aren't we?
yes.
So there again, you see how our stories kind of developed from telling people not to do it, to showing them why, and then showing them the end result. And again, the human element of people actually having to go in there, it really hit home for people. And the feedback we got from this was absolutely tremendous. And again, fairly low cost, didn't cost us massive amounts of money. I've seen a lot of big companies doing these £1,000 campaigns, and you know, and actually, are they working? Yeah, of course, some are, but a lot of them don't. And a lot of people have budgetary issues and think big, but there's so much you can do by just, I don't know, just being a little bit more witty and a little bit more clever about it. And again, I mean, one thing this also does is we had someone come up, it was actually to me on the day, and said, you know what, every time I see Thames Water, I just think that, oh, you've probably done something wrong, you've probably had a burst pipe, you're probably fixing something, which is why he actually avoided us. We actually brought him back in and said, we're not, you know, we haven't actually messed up today, we're doing something cool. And he came, and there again, there's a perception for Thames Water that every time you see us out there, we've probably messed up. So we're trying to change that as well. So another movement, so it's not just kind of the fatberg and the sewer stuff we're doing. And then you can see I strategically placed a bottle here, but I did drop it this morning, which is why I'm kind of turning it a little bit this way. But this is one of our other key messages, and this is a part of our story we're telling. So we have absolutely world-class tap water. We have thousands of checks on it, but we don't shout about that. We don't tell people actually what we do with our tap water. We don't tell people about kind of the world-class element of it, and that's something we just haven't done, because we think people kind of just sort of take it for granted. You know, water comes from your taps. You'll probably drink it. When you're outside, you might drink it. You might buy plastic bottles, which ultimately end up in our seas and our rivers and our oceans. So we're trying to change that as well. And you know, we're doing so much more around kind of the tap water world, where we're working with the mayor and to kind of build 50 water fountains across London. We haven't really communicated that, so that's something we will start to communicate. We've run kind of tap water bars, which I'm going to talk about in a while. But as you've kind of seen, everything then ends up to a stunt. So then we thought, okay, how can we do a stunt? How can we really show that, you know what, throwing plastic water bottles away, it's a massive problem. What can we do, which is kind of low cost? So in here, we didn't really have much of a budget at all. So we did a bit of research, and we found out that in London, an average Londoner throws away a certain amount of bottles a year. So we thought, how can we really replicate that? And we're going to show you in a second. You may recognise that, and he's actually on the front row, strategically placed, but that's Callum, who works in our social team. And this is, I'm not going to tell you anymore, but this is what we did. There again, it's something quite small, but I mean, the reaction we got when we went around London, it was immense. And I smile because the way we had to film it, we had to let poor Callum kind of just walk around dressed like that, but on his own a little bit, because the kind of, what we were trying to show is, Callum was a bit of a loner, you know, plastic person, and we wanted him to end and be kind of this whole rechange person who uses refillable bottles and stuff like that. So there was a scene on like Westminster Bridge where we had to let Callum walk on his own, and we were all standing back and people were pointing at him and laughing at him. There was some tourists who were taking selfies. I don't think they understood what was going on, but they just thought that's probably not how you would normally dress. So it was absolutely amazing. And then we've kind of started to do a lot more around our brand stuff as well. So I talked about tap water bars. This year, we experimented a little bit. And then that was the whole thing about that I said at the start, that in my interview, I was told, try things. You know, if they go wrong, don't do them again. If they go right, keep doing them. So it was a complete blank piece of paper, which was what kind of, it motivated me and inspired me to take on this role. But these tap water bars, we went to the Chelsea Flower Show, we went to Country File, and we also did Notting Hill. And we were basically giving away free water. So this was something that just cost us money because we had to set up, branding, make sure our pipes were all connected and all that kind of techie stuff that I can't really tell you about. But we were there to change behaviours. And at Country File especially, it was an absolute baking 3 or 4 days. It was during the period of sustained heat. And again, the feedback we got was so great because we were giving a product away for free. And people think of water as kind of a free product or something they pay for once, and then it's kind of, but we were really selling the water, so to speak. And again, the feedback we got was great. And we've actually noticed that our kind of NPS score has increased this year, which is obviously, you know, because of stuff like this. And then just very quickly on kind of channels. So if I take a step back, a year ago when I first joined, we were using Twitter, we were using Facebook, and a little bit of LinkedIn as well. It's a shame she's gone, actually. But we wanted to do more. And Instagram was, it kind of highlighted where Thames Water were. Because when I first came in, I talked about Instagram as a, why are we not on it? Fastest growing network, releasing features monthly. It's if we're trying to change behaviours, we're trying to we're talking to the next generation as well. So why are we not on it? And you know, there wasn't really much buy-in. There wasn't, you know, much support really there. But we managed to convince people. And it's been quite a story for us, you know, because we've developed our Instagram organically. We've used it to support events. We've used stories. We've kind of highlighted our region a little bit as well. Because as I said earlier on, you know, we're very proud of our city. We're very proud of our region. But we weren't telling that story. We have some beautiful reservoirs. We have some beautiful kind of places where people can go. But if nobody knows about them, how are they going to go there? So again, Instagram has been a real success story for us. And you know, if you're not on Instagram, then I don't know, maybe go home. And then just finally, we wanted to take it a step further. So we had seen that all our PR stuff has worked. You know, people are now engaging with us, engaging with each other. Word of mouth is obviously very, very strong. The more we tell our story, hopefully, the more our customers will tell other customers. And that will result in people using more tap water and not plastic bottles, people not flushing things down the toilet or down the sink. So we launched our brand new community, and this has only been launched a couple of weeks. It's probably fair for me to plug it, community.thameswater.co.uk, just if you are a customer. Even if you're not, check it out. But here, what our aim is, and we're obviously early days, but we want to have self-regulated content on our own website. So we want customers to be telling fellow customers things. So at the moment, it's always been us telling people. We've changed the way we do it, but it's always been us telling people, don't do this, or do it this way, because of, here we want customers to start seeing it. And we think that will happen because we've seen it on social media a little bit. We've had people that have got their sewers blocked, so there's an awful smell. They've had to call us out. We've had to go down there, fix it, solve it. They've then come on maybe Twitter and talked about it and thanked us for our time. We want those people to go on community, and we want those kind of conversations to continue going because we feel that's such a powerful message. So we're very much at the start of our journey. In a year, we have come a long, long way, but it's only the start for our journey. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Akhil. Any questions for Akhil? We've got time for one question before he has to shoot off. One back here.
Hello there. I actually saw your superheroes campaign in the. It was a service station and it was in the loos. Yeah. And I thought that's really good because it was like Thames Water and toilets and everything. But I looked at the picture and I thought to myself, oh, this just looks like sort of standard advertising, sort of stock photo type people. And I just wondered, are these real employees and are you planning on sort of like are you planning on humanising them further? Because I think, as I say, that was my initial thought was these don't look like real people that actually do that work.
Yeah, so they were real people. So Callum again spent kind of a day with them doing some filming and things like that. So as part of our campaign, as the campaign moves on, we have got human stories from them. We have kind of behind the scenes interviews with them to really kind of dig deeper into that. So they are. And how smart was it? Because you're obviously at a cubicle, you can't move anywhere. You have to look at this advertising. So for me, that was genius.